The Assistant is a thriller drama film that I found out about, and today it will be the subject of cinematic atrocity because thankfully it was what I thought it was going to be. And let me give you a little backstory. So during lockdown I watched the miniseries Waco, and I really liked Julia Garner's performance in that miniseries. And Ozark's on my to-watch list, and I wanted to see what else she was in because, you know, she won an Emmy for Ozark. And she was in a little drama thriller called The Assistant. It came out at the beginning of 2019. It is a movie about a young graduate student who is working at a production company as a junior assistant. It's a very much sought after position. And however, she discovers a sort of environment unsuitable. It's a very male-dominated field, and the producer person, the person in charge, the person they consider to be like, you know, the head honcho, he likes to sleep around with young women and, you know, take advantage of his position of power. So she has to, you know, sort of go on the offensive and tell HR. And I looked up the reviews for this movie, though, and the reviews were really bad. So I was trying to figure out what it was, and it's because the movie is full of mundane things. Like, this movie is written and directed by Kitty Green. It's she's done a couple of documentary films before this, but the movie has an important theme. It's a very, you know, timely thing about the Me Too movement, and we're not given a direct time frame of when this movie happens, but the movie's littered with watching her do mundane tasks over and over. And I even made a little list because, you know, I had to. And let's see. Number of times Jane does photocopies. 6 shots, 6 seconds each. So you're watching it for half a minute, doing copies spread out throughout the film. 5 shots of her eating food. 6 shots of her in the break room. Has nothing to do with food, just her in the break room doing other stuff. One of those break room scenes is a 30-second shot of her washing dishes. And 4 shots of her in an elevator. And only 2 of those have some thematic heft. So the result is a cinematic atrocity. This movie is supposed to be one thing. It's supposed to be a drama thriller, you know, like a harrowing. Let's look at the little excerpts on the front of the DVD cover. An urgent real-time thriller, IndieWire says. It's transfixing and harrowing, says the Daily Beast. On the back, discrimination by 1,000 paper cuts. It speaks volumes by Rolling Stone. And this movie also has like a 91 on Rottentomatoes. So a movie needs to be more than just a powerful subject matter. Can you imagine the movie Spotlight in 2015 watching it and having Mark Ruffalo eat a power bar 5 times or something, the equivalent throughout the movie? I mean, like Brad Pitt also does that in all of his movies. He does this thing where, you know, sometimes he'll eat pistachios or something, or he'll eat, you know, something, and it's really distracting because, you know, they're trying to hammer home the, you know, the theme that, you know, she's in an oppressive work environment and she's doing mundane things. But then the movie also has a scene where she goes to HR, and then we find out more about her. And yeah, the movie's pacing is absolutely dreadful. We don't get the first sort of plot point till 35 minutes in. And then we don't get, you know, a lot of her backstory till near the end when she goes to HR. And then we find out that she comes from this school. She's only been at the company for 2 months. People really want this position, even though we've seen numerous shots of her just, you know, turning on computers and answering phone calls and things like that. Every time there's a donut in this movie, it's absolutely hilarious, you know. And that's what makes this movie a somewhat good cinematic atrocity. It's supposed to be this harrowing, you know, drama, searing thriller, but instead it's just like numerous shots of her like sweeping, or her picking up some stuff off the floor, or, you know, her doing dishes in the break room, her microwaving a frozen dinner. It's just like so many sequences. And there's even a scene where she's like standing in an elevator with these foreign investors. They're like these Asian guys talking, and there's no reason for that shot, because in the next scene we find out that they're there to meet the producer guy and he blew them off. And so if you were to take away all the superfluous shots of her doing mundane tasks and keep all the important ones where something actually matters, then you'd honestly have like an actual, like maybe like a short film. Like it'd only be like 40 minutes long. And maybe that's what this movie should have been. It should have been just like a powerful short film. Instead, they decided to pad it out to a running time of an hour and 20 minutes. So yes, this, and then the frozen dinners. It's just so random. Yeah, so this movie definitely is a misfire. Anyone watching it will probably think it's really boring, but me going into it knowing that it's supposed to be boring ended up being hilarious, because among other things than just like the mundane task shots, there's a lot of awkwardness, because she's supposed to be like this quiet, introverted person, and it makes for a lot of awkward scenes, you know, scenes where it looks like she's about to burst into tears at any moment, all the time, you know, and over, stuff. And then there's like, they also make the conscious choice of having the producer man never seen. He's like that hero. He's like a ghost of sorts. He's always, you can hear him in the other room mumbling. You can hear him shouting. He gets mad. He demands things, but you never see him because they're trying to paint this picture that, this, producer who abuses his power is like the everyman. Any man could, or any person can be, an abuser of power, and they're trying to make like this sort of thing, but it just makes it sound really awkward, because there's like, phone conversations that you mumbling, you can hear really bad audio, and maybe you're not supposed to hear it, but I had to turn on the subtitles near the end of the movie, so the movie does have bad audio as well. And yeah, this movie just didn't really work. Important themes, but terrible execution. So in terms of a cinematic atrocity, it's not that hilarious, but I did find myself laughing a lot during some of the sequences that were not supposed to be funny. So I give this a cinematic atrocity rating of 3 out of 10. It won't, be it's not The Room, like obviously not, or even The Happening, but if you watch this movie and go into it just expecting like Spotlight, you're not going to get Spotlight. And those are my thoughts on The Assistant.